Back with us on the SportsMax Zone. Well, we turn our attention now. The Jamaica Premier League, the first leg semi-finals in the competition are set for Saturday. Tivoli Gardens face Cavalier. Mount Pleasant come up next against Waterhouse. Now, partisan fans will say all four teams deserve their place in the last four. Waterhouse and the Cavalier were the automatic qualifiers to the semi-final round, while Mount Pleasant and the Tivoli got here after beating Harbourview and Vere United respectively. Joining us to preview the games is our JPL commentator, the school teacher, Dewight Jeremiah. Dwight, welcome to the SportsMax Zone, my friend.
Good to be here, George. Good to be here.
Excellent. Insofar as the last four are concerned, for those who for some reason haven't been paying rapt attention to the league over time, are these the four right teams, you would say?
I would think it's the four right teams. Even after making the top six, these teams, when you look at it, even statistics, they are the team that have done the best and should be here. But even outside of what statistics will tell you, just unsure how they play and how easy it is on the eye to watch these teams play. And for football lovers, it's a lot about goals, and these four teams, they're packed with goals.
Which of the four, Dwight, would you say is the outsider of the pack, and why?
I would possibly say Cavalier because of probably the youthfulness, and some will say the experience in the end may be telling. But it's not by much. It's a very thin here by which they are just outsiders. But I feel that because they were the team, they look as if they would not make it at one point, and their last two games are quite critical for them to get in there. But they showed good maturity despite being a young team to get with those games and get into the top six. In fact, get into an automatic semi-final spot. A lot of it had to do with teams stuttering below them, but they took the opportunity that came their way. And for that, yes, it's just slight, if I may say. But I feel it's very, very close among these four teams.
For the time I was here and plugged into the league, Dwight, Waterhouse looks like a collection of domino players asked to play football. Their transformation, their turnaround has been tremendous. What do you think accounts for the upturn in Marcel Gale's team's form?
I think it's quite simple, I feel, from an analytical standpoint. I feel that they got better defensively. There was more balance to their play. Early in the season, Waterhouse, they were good going forward. They were scoring goals, but just that they were giving up goals. And at one point in the league, they were the team that gave up more points from winning position than any other team. That tells you a lot about them. But in the latter parts of the season, they have really corrected that. I think their captain too has been found out of position a few times. He likes to bring the ball out of defense and he gets caught out a lot of times. But I think they have corrected that. And with 4 wins in a row, the longest winning streak by any team in the league, I think they've found the right balance. And that is pretty much why they are at the top of the table and the best attacking team and best defensive team of the lot that remains.
Yeah, Shaquille Bradford is only 20 years old, Dwight, and Andre Fletcher isn't much older. And they've been doing the bulk of the scoring for Waterhouse so far this season. How impressed are you with those two young men?
I am very impressed with them. They've taken on the burden of scoring for Waterhouse. And you spoke about them carrying the burden and doing a lot of it for Waterhouse. But Waterhouse, I mean, they have a vast amount of goal scorers. I mean, for them, they have 7 different goal scorers in their ranks at the moment. So, yes, those two have carried the bulk of it, but they are a lot of threat all over the park. But I'm very impressed with how they have really carried the bulk of the scoring for Waterhouse.
Yeah, coming out of the regular season as well, Dwight, Waterhouse and Cavalier were top seeds, Waterhouse number 1 and Cavalier number 2, which meant that they automatically got semi-final spots. Now, they haven't played in 2 or 3 weeks. Will their inactivity over the past few weeks be a benefit to them coming into this weekend's matches against teams that have been a lot busier in the past couple of weeks?
I would want to think yes, because they've rested and should come in with much fresher legs. But if I look at what has happened so far in the league, because of UWI not being a part of it, there's a point where every team gets a rest. And I've looked at that, and only twice of teams come from a rest and won, and that was Mount Pleasant, and recently it was Harbour View when they needed to get into the top 6. So again, the inactivity could be very telling, because you'll come back, might not be match sharp, and that could play a factor. However, because their opponents would have played 3 games in 8 days, it could somewhat level the playing field, and you could be up against teams that may not be as sharp as well, because they have played so many games in a short space of time. So in the end, it may not be a factor, but the stats show that it has been so far. It has been 5 losses, 3 drawn and 2 wins from teams coming from rest, and that was only 1 week. This is over 2 weeks.
Yeah, Tivoli is an interesting candidate here for the title, Dwight. They won just one of their first 5 matches, but they got better as the season went on. Right now they're on a 9-game unbeaten run, which is the best unbeaten run in the league at the moment. I heard their technical director on television speaking this week, and he's saying that they're peaking at the right time. Do you agree with him?
I did say that in the last zone I was on, that they're peaking at the right time. However, they do have some issues defensively. We see on the blind side that sometimes they don't defend well, but they always give you chances. I did say that I didn't think Vere was the type of team that would exploit those frailties, but in a Cavalier team, it shows that they have the weapons to be able to hurt Tivoli if they continue to give those chances up. We saw chances fall to Vere. They just couldn't take them, but they got very good opportunities over the 2 legs that they played at. I think if that were to happen against Cavalier, they will definitely take advantage of it. However, you have a Tivoli team that has scored in all but 1 game this season as well, so they are scoring. I think it makes for an interesting game. The one thing I can be certain about from an analytical standpoint is that there will be goals in this game.
Yeah, just quickly, before we leave Cavalier, they have some exciting youngsters in the same way that Waterhouse has some in Dwayne Atkinson, certainly a very outstanding young player, and Ronaldo Webster, who has been very, very influential as well. We know that Cavalier have focused a lot on youth in their programs in recent years. You suggested that they could be the outsiders of the party, but there is the element too of these young men, no fear. They go in with no fear. They may not have the legs in their background as many of the other players that they're up against, but they have no fear going in.
And mixed with that, Lance, I have to agree to an extent that yes, that no fear factor is something that we see teams when they have nothing pretty much as they think to lose, they go out and they just play their game. I think for them though, and their coaching staff, they feel that this is an opportunity this time around, given the whole complexity of the competition. So I feel there's probably in the background some whispering from their technical team that look, we could do that, whether or not that had a little pressure. But the experience will be required. But I honestly believe that yes, they can create the upset I would want to feel. And I just give them slight outsider because George asked if there was any team to be titled as an outsider, but it's very, very close.
Yeah. Mount Pleasant's management made a big call very early in the season, Dwight. They asked Paul Teagat Davis to coach no more, and they went elsewhere in terms of the technical lead of the team, and that seems to have been the elixir for a team that was just drifting aimlessly in the league, although early in the season at that time. Do they look like they could go all the way this year, the St. Anne team?
Yeah, they look that way. I mean, again, peaking at the right time. Lots of goals in the last couple of games. The one factor, though, is that since they have switched allegiance somewhat or changed the technical director of their team, they've lost once. And that loss has come to Waterhouse 4 games into his reign. So it couldn't have been said, well, maybe he was still finding his footing. They had a 2-0 loss to Waterhouse. So yes, they look like they could go all the way, but Waterhouse in that game showed that they're really a force and really a team that could really, and I think favourites at this point to go ahead if they can come back from the break with the type of form that they went into it with. Some will say, well, it was only Arnett and Malines that they backed up for. But what that shows me is that if they're given opportunities, they will take it. And I just want to state a point that Lance had made on Cavalier. They're yet to beat any of the teams that are currently that were in the top 6. They have lost to them, but they didn't beat them. So again, we'll wait to see if they can do that. So that's ranks them as outsider. But yes, Mount Pleasant really looking good. But Waterhouse have shown that they did beat them under this new coach.
Yeah. Let's look at the head-to-head between Waterhouse and Mount Pleasant. As you said, the Waterhouse team having the supremacy in that. If you go back from September 2018 and you look down the line, Mount Pleasant have won once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So they've won 4 out of 6 meetings against Waterhouse. So their record against the Waterhouse team is absolutely outstanding. That, though, was when there were home and away games, legitimate home and away games. If you notice, most of the Mount Pleasant wins came at Mount Pleasant in the split that we're seeing. So if our graphic is aligned in terms of home team named first, I don't know what, if anything, that will mean for the matchup, Dwight. But if we were to look, Dwight, at the benches of both games, you know, the popular school of thought is that benches win competitions. And I think that has been proven over time. If we were to look at the 2 semi-final matchups that we have, starting with Waterhouse and Mount Pleasant, the game is not going well for either coach. It's a stalemate and the clock is running old. Which of these coaches has the better resources on their bench to come and change the game for them? Let's start with Waterhouse, Mount Pleasant.
Well, close again, but I think Mount Pleasant do have good players to call up off the bench. We saw it in the case where they actually didn't start Jordan Fletcher, which is in a good vein of form. But young player, he came off the bench, he did well, but players who were on the park were able to hold it for them. And you look at young Campbell, Green, these are experienced players in there. So I think Mount Pleasant do have good depth in their squad. Waterhouse not far behind, but I would give Mount Pleasant the edge in that situation.
And what would you say about Cavalier and Tivoli? Who has the better game changers at their disposal? Philip Williams or Rudolph Speed off the bench?
I would think Philip Williams, because when I look at when Rudolph Speed went for changes to his team, their youngsters, they were wetting their feet somewhat at this level. Didn't really impact the game as much as they'd want. You know, they're a team that will give youngsters the opportunity. And yes, given the opportunity is great, but it's not saying that they're ready for this level. And we've seen some youngsters come in. He has rested. I remember in a game he rested both Webster and Atkinson, and he had to call upon them at halftime because they really were not really having a cutting edge at the attacking end of the park, and he needed them to carry it over the line for him, or to get closer. They didn't win that game still. So I really feel that in that tie, Tivoli has a greater depth in their squad.
So are you calling them for us, Mr. Analyst, Mr. Commentator? Give us your idea of what is likely to happen if all goes as expected on Saturday. First leg, who will come away with the advantages?
Well, I'll tell you what, first off, George, I can go safe to say there will be goals in these 2 games. That's for sure. Going with the Mount Pleasant Waterhouse game, close one, goal scorers all over the park. Jordan Fletcher didn't start the last game, and he came on, but he showed that he didn't need a long time to score. He came on 46 minutes, scoring 62. That's like 60 minutes. I don't know how sharp he will be for this game, but he's going to be needed in this one. But Waterhouse, they do have scorers over it. Very close, but because of their first meeting, I'm going to just slightly go Waterhouse, possibly 2-1 for this one. But I'm not surprised if it's 2-2 in this as well.
And Tivoli Cavalier. So 2-1 Waterhouse over Mount Pleasant in the first leg. Tivoli Cavalier.
Tivoli Cavaliers, again, a close one. But I think because of the depth in the squad and Tivoli has really looked good in terms of their defense in the last couple of games. Yes, we look at the fact that they conceded about 4 goals in 2 games, but if you look outside of that, they've been very good. I give Tivoli the edge in this one by 1-0. Just.
Okay, Dwight. Great talking to you, and we look keenly to see what happens in these semi-final first leg matches, we remember, on Saturday, because they have to come back for the return matches on Wednesday, and those will be the results that will decide who play in the final next weekend. Thanks, Dwight.
You'll be on commentary, right, Dwight?
Well, the good thing is that there are 2 legs, so I have a chance to take my mind.
All All right, yeah, he'll be on commentary. He'll be on
he's
commentary.
on
For sure.
commentary.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you know, George, before we go to the break, I've been talking to a lot of Waterhouse fans who think that this is their year. Remember, the last two Premier League finals, they were beaten finalists. And last year, when the tournament was aborted, they were the #1 team in the league. So they feel that it is now time for Waterhouse to win. I suspect, though, that the Mount Pleasant will be a huge hurdle to climb in their semi-final. But it's going to be hot, I can tell you that. Still to come on the SportsMax Zone, the fabulous Angela Yee, founder and host of the hit syndicated show The Breakfast Club, will be joining us in studio in our segment called Celebrity Knock at 5:30, 6:30 Eastern Caribbean time. Up next, we'll be talking football as we look forward to round 6 of the English Premier League, which kicks off on Saturday.